The sad reality is it's not really a laughing matter. Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about something quite serious. Even though the reality is, it is what it is. Title. But I'm hoping this might help a lot of people because it is genuinely a serious problem. I think, particularly in the UK. I don't know about anywhere else in the world, different cultures and whatnot. I want to talk about alcohol and my stories. What I can remember, I'm no doubt going to miss a lot here. And just how it's basically affected my life and why I quit it when I was like 21, somewhere around that age. You ready? It's going to be a long one, folks, so I hope you're okay. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It helps. I have to do that plug because I don't always do that this day and age. Basically, alcohol. We all grow up. When I grew up in the UK, parents always drinking it. I've had it on stream where some people, when I used to be on Twitch, used to be very excited couldn't wait to grow up and actually drink alcohol because they've seen how parents drink it and hide it away, and you know you have to be 18 to drink it, so it seems like a luxurious thing. And obviously, fortunate enough, sometimes with parents, they'll give you a little bit here and there, and you know you can feel a little bit tipsy, as they say. But what I want to talk about is that just basically how it affected me, and I'm sure it. Sorry, I'm sure I've drunk some coffee. It's making me all lispy. I'm sure it affects people differently. And for me, it didn't really affect me too well. It started off okay, and then definitely it tumbled into some disastrous situations, which I shall try and remember here in successive order. But basically, I think we started out mainly drinking. I was drinking underage around sort of 16. I did a previous video on my sort of covering my school videos, and that was kind of it, really. When we were like sort of 16, and back whenever that was, probably we were looking like, I don't know, 8. God, Lord Tom, no, 14 years ago. So yeah, you're looking about that ago. It wasn't so. You could go to a few shops in the UK, corner shops, certain things that weren't too, big supermarkets and that, and you could get served alcohol, no problem. And, you know, there's plenty of people that look older than they are, and that was just how it was. So we could get easily served, and you could just do a group meet and have a barbecue, and you just have a good time. And we did that quite a bit when I was young, and it was quite nice. It wasn't really frowned upon, particularly over here. It was just sort of a normal thing to do, and you socialize with friends and have a good time. That was what you do, and that is what people still do this today. Obviously, there is still, I think, a big culture, not as big as it was surely in the 90s, but there's a big culture over here on like nighttime drinking, particularly at the weekend. Even some people Friday and Saturday night, where they'll stay out all night, you know, to like 4 in the morning till kick out time. Usually drink beforehand nowadays because it's so expensive to go and actually get drunk itself in town. So it's usually just considered as a bit of a top up. And there's people of all ages. You get young people doing this, you get old people doing this. It's still people my age and older doing this, which is I find quite remarkable. And that's kind of why I'm doing this video, because I couldn't imagine being 30 years old and still going out and clubbing. But what if that's, you know, whatever, you do what you do. It's just a bit weird to me. It was weird to me even when I was 21, but whatever. I just found that basically soon after, like, alcohol, people that you wouldn't normally end up socializing with, you end up socializing with, and that can be a good and bad thing. And I ended up having quite a number of groups of friends and different parties, situations, alcohol's involved, and had some great times. Cannot be said. It's been some amazing times. And I've always considered alcohol to be one of these that brings out your inner monkey. If you were to put 3 people, 10 people, whatever, round a table, get everybody drinking, eventually everybody will start chatting. You don't know each other, but the chances are you'll all start talking. Your inner monkey, as I say, comes out, and you'll start expressing yourself and, you know, trying to be just, I don't know, socialize basically with people, which is, I say, very good. The problem I found it made me very depressed. I think I don't know if I really started drinking off, like out of parties, like as in the evenings. I don't think I started that till I was about 18 when I could actually buy it. That's when I think the problems really started. When you could just buy it for party or get it for parties and things, that was always funny. And the hangover was never a big deal when you were young. But I always had a trick, and this is still a viable trick, is you drink... Make sure to drink at least a pint of water before you go to bed. You might end up peeing, and you might end up peeing in the tent full of your friends, which is what I did because I thought I was outside the tent. So I climbed outside the tent and then thought, hang on, I'm still inside the tent, and then climbed back inside the tent and proceeded to piss in the corner. Obviously, I didn't think I was doing that, but that's what I did. It caused quite a commotion, and I don't recommend that. I also think we ended up jumping over and destroying someone's tent, but we'll gloss over all that because there's plenty there. A good one I can remember off the top of my head right now that's worth a mention. A few years back, I don't know when this was, I got the tags behind me somewhere. Went to see AC/DC in Download Festival a few years ago, and I lost my voice. And after the gig, and I couldn't speak. It was actually my birthday as well. I don't know how old I was, possibly 21, ironically. And I ended up, we couldn't take glass bottles into the festival, so we'd all put alcohol, and this was a big group we had, my brother's friends and some of my friends, and we ended up putting like liters of alcohol in like 2-liter bottles of like Coca-Cola bottles, plastic bottles. So it was all mixed up. And what they'd done is they'd mixed a liter of tequila and a liter of vodka. And I quite like my alcohol at this point. I think this is, say, when I could buy it and I was driving and things. And I distinctively remember downing at least over half of this bottle. And I was like, oh, that's good. What is that? And they're literally like, dude, that was literally what I just said. It's a liter of each. Neat. Liquor basically mixed together, and I was like, oh, it'll be fine. And I knew that wasn't a great idea, and proceeded to go and be violently sick behind like a burger van before proceeding to go and order a pizza. I think I passed out waiting at Domino's Pizza because there was a huge ass queue at the festival, and getting like bashed on the head with a box of my pizza. And I think I basically went back to the campsite and ended up passing out, even though I'd thrown up, I think, a lot of it. I'd still, good lord, I don't think I've ever been so drunk. It's good times, but good, don't recommend it, don't do that. I was already pretty hardcore alcoholic at that sort of point anyway. But yeah, needless to say, I didn't end up eating my pizza. I think someone else ate my pizza, but it is what it is. I say I've got there's a plenty. Then what I ended up doing is I ended up drinking pretty much every night. At my worst point, I was drinking literally about a liter to about half a liter of vodka a day. And what I used to do, like this was each evening. This is kind of when I was at school or at college. And what I would do is I would put like a pint glass, and I'd put like, this is not to encourage you, I would put like a third of it, at least if not more, of vodka in it. And you can get cheap stuff in over here, really cheap. And I think you still can get it cheap. You can get cheap vodka, like no problem. And just get like a 2-liter bottle, like a Pepsi, and end up just mixing the two. And yeah, I'd end up just drinking like over some nights over a liter of vodka. It was crazy. Now, this ended up into problems because obviously alcohol was actually quite high calorie. I was trying to lose weight at the time, and it was kind of working while being an alcoholic. Now, this is where the symptoms of alcoholism became quite apparent to me, and I can pick them up quite easily. I've actually had quite a few co-workers that have had this. I ended up getting stomach ulcers. Now, I think that's kind of it's a bit genetic anyway, but what was happening is basically the alcohol was like destroying the lining of your stomach. Now, I think the doctors know that over this, but they won't per se call you out on it. They'll just treat you because that's what they're paid. That's what they do. But yeah, basically, I was heavily drinking, and I ended up like throwing up blood, coughing up blood a lot of the time when I was basically in downtime and things. I think I distinctly remember going for a run after I'd taken a bit of a drink. Don't ask me why, because alcoholic. And I ended up bursting a blood vessel in my eye. I think I did a picture on like my Facebook or Instagram at the time. It probably still exists somewhere. That was not good. That was not good. But the problem is basically I'm trying to get here is that alcoholism over here has been very much encouraged. I know that was on me, but it's quite common for co-workers over here to boast about drinking like a 12-pack, if not more, of cans of beer, or lager, or whatever is your choice, ale or whatever. It's just a standard thing to boast about, and people will encourage it. And people, I say, don't really sort of frown upon it. The problem I found is that when I was like isolated, particularly even at parties, I got very depressed. I've never ever, and I truly mean this, and I know if anyone still drinks, this is going to be hard to understand, but I'm sure you can possibly relate. I have never ever been as depressed as when I was drinking alcohol. And I thought that was me. I thought that was my depression. I thought it was my sadness. I thought it was me being upset. I was so so upset. You know, I contemplated lots of horrible things, and it would be bad because it would like you would almost like pick on yourself in some bad term or cycle of like depression. It was horrible, and it really didn't help it. And I'm sure this is quite normal, to be honest, for a lot of people. And it's why you sort of end up drinking in the morning, because you're just in this sort of cycle that's just horrible. I said prayers with anyone that's in this cycle, because it's very hard. It's very hard. I don't know how long I really drank for. I actually ended up, I thought, do I really do this video? Because I've suppressed a lot of this memories and stuff. And not that it's going to be a trigger or anything for me. It's just, I've really tried to avoid that old self that I was for at least a good few years in my life. I distinctly remember one party I went to. I was drunk out of my face, and actually a few parties. I even had a party at my house here, and I ended up fucking drunk driving. And this isn't, you know, I'm not proud of it. But I ended up leaving at the end of the party, and I drove home, and I ended up in my old house, in my old bed, which was thankfully vacant. There was no one in there. And I think my friend came and woke me up in the morning, but I ended up not in the right house. It's just, I don't even know how I drove home. I have a bit of flashbacks of what happened, and it wasn't good. Yeah, and I've done that as well here. I had one really bad case, and I had a fucking flashback to it the other day. I don't know what happened. I had, bless her, one of my friends was ill in my bed. I threw a party here. It was actually really good. I enjoyed it. I had some great friends over and that. And I think everyone went to bed, and I had a fucking panic attack, basically, I think, in the middle of the night. And I've never spoken about this to anybody. It's the first time I've spoken about this ever, because this came up the other day, and I just thought, why the fuck did I do that? I just cannot think, other than that it was this, I say, almost depressive cycle I was in with this alcohol sort of addiction I had. I never did anything else. I was never really into anything else. A lot of my friends were. There was a lot of my friends were into harder drugs and God knows what else. But at the time, I just used to smoke weed and beer before bong and all the rest of it. That was kind of my couple of choice, and it was, yeah, do a bit of each, and you're pretty easy going. No big deal there. But I ended up in the middle of the night driving off again. And I went and slept in a car park in the back of my car, like, I don't know, quite a few miles away from their house. And people, it was really sweet. People left me notes and messages and stuff in the morning, like, I hope you're okay. And I just sat there, I was like, even at the time, I don't know what the fuck that was about. I even remember at parties, sometimes I just get this overwhelming feeling like I can't handle this stuff at the minute. I just have to walk away. And again, this like depressive cycle would just sink in. I'd just get so down. And not to mention, women can really, really enhance this sort of situation. You've got like relationships and things that can really make situations a lot more complicated. But I'm going to stay out of a lot of that right now. Yeah, that was sort of big signs to me that I knew this wasn't good. I knew there was something not right, and I can't even remember what sort of did it to make me kick the bucket of it, to be honest. I'll have to probably edit this right here and just have a little think, to be honest. My 21st birthday. Wow, I fucked that up. It was both good and bad. I kind of fucked that up big time. I had two very different social groups at that point in my life. I had my old school friends, and I had sort of new friends and co-workers I'd made at work. And I had new friends that I hung around with, and we went to pubs and we were hung around, and they did drugs particularly. I never really did much, but we played a lot of video games and things together. We played online, like PlayStation Network, and it was just, I had some really good times with those guys alone. But something happened involving them with my birthday that really was quite a messed up situation. And this was again a situation where I was like, fuck, what's actually going on here? And what happened was basically 21st birthday, I'd organised here on our farm. We've got a barn down the other way, down the other buildings. It might appear in some of my bike videos. Probably some of my old videos I did with my old car videos, my very first car videos, it's probably in there still. And it was relatively new at that point, and basically I just thought, do a DJ booth. I had like my old stereo set up, and just get a load of alcohol in a bar, We think we already had a bar for my brother's wedding and things set up, so things are relatively easy. My brother's got some bar equipment, and then generally, music, beer, alcohol, music, good time, friends or whatever. And I think actually annoyingly, what had happened. Again, this is something I've never really spoken about because I don't, well, who can I speak to it about, really? It's just something that happened, and I've never, once the party is over, it's not like you can gather everyone again and be like, sorry, everybody, I'm really sorry. At school, you could, because obviously you'll see people again, but generally, this is at this point in my life where I just couldn't really do much. And so what had happened was I think people had turned up quite early, like 6 o'clock. I think I might have organised it for 7, and I hadn't had my dinner because I was so busy still organising like stuff like the equipment and things. But I had people hanging around my home and wanting to sort of hang around down where I was going to have the party. But I said it was quite early, and so I didn't actually end up having any food. Even though I'd organised food and there was a barbecue and everything set up, that was going to be a bit later on. And I don't think I'd eaten all day. And what had basically ended up happening is after I kind of introduced everybody, I, for whatever reason, decided to go and do what I can only presume is MDMA. I thought it was coke, but I don't know what I thought it was. I was obviously very drunk, probably already at that point. My friends gave me a birthday line. I don't know if I can really say friends, bless them, but at the time I thought they were anyway. And yeah, from there, the entire evening was kind of a fucking blur, and I think I made a complete arsehat myself to a degree. I think in some lights it was alright. I think I was still quite sociable and having a good time, but in other cases, it was I ended up just doing some very stupid stuff. To only end up, I think I went for a piss behind what we've got some cabins here, and I ended up just falling into a ditch and staying there for probably a few hours. It was quite horrific in reality of things. Yeah, not good. I basically came back from that experience. It was a good 21st at the beginning, and then I really fucked it up. I don't know. God knows what people thought and saw, because I can't remember. I couldn't even remember at the time. I had no idea what was going on. It wasn't me anymore. It was someone else. Don't recommend that shit. And to be honest, in this period of time particularly as well, a lot of the parties I went to, I was in a young farmers group. Some of those parties were really good, but again, it was, I think, people on similar situations making a complete arse themselves with no real control. Though fun, I don't kind of recommend it, because you kind of end up doing a video like I'm doing now, and you just end up sounding like a complete dickhead. But basically that, at such a young age, even 21, I didn't find myself drinking during the day, but I found myself drinking every night, and I found myself having to drink quite a lot to get the same effects again, and I hated that. I hated having to drink like nearly a litre of vodka to get drunk. I thought that was fucking pointless. I really, really annoyed me. I think basically I ended up, as we know, I kind of smoke weed. Weed back then was a lot harder to get hold of in many ways. And you got, over here, it's still not regulated at all. So you can get anything from anything. It could be bad, it could be good. It's usually good nowadays, but back then it was really kind of anything you can get, seeds and all. But the quality is generally a lot better now. But the reality is you still don't know what you're getting. Some dealers can be very selective, particularly if it's been imported or grown or whatever. You can actually get strains, and even then it's still, you haven't been able to pick an indica or a sativa, two completely dominant strains, and you get hybrids, which is a lot of stuff nowadays. But the fact that you can't really go and choose something that's right medication for you did mean that sometimes I'd get weed and it would be anxiety through the roof. Like, I just couldn't smoke it. It was horrible. And then other times I get it and I'm passing out. Other times it's perfect. I fortunately know what I like now. I've got my own situation. But beforehand, I say that was a bit of a nightmare. But being able to medicate properly has been a big deal for me. I know people are still a big that. There is a massive anti-culture of weed over here, and it's been very pushed in from high school. My first time smoking was with a few friends, and I actually smoked about 3 times, and it didn't work. I didn't get what I'd consider high. Maybe I wasn't inhaling properly. Could well be. I don't really know. But yeah, basically that was, gosh, that was probably again when I was about 16, 18, 16, somewhere around there. I don't really know when I first smoked weed. So, but before that, I was very anti. I was almost like a billboard for like, I don't do drugs, no drugs here, okay, and all the rest of it. But no, it was actually very different to what what if you've never experienced it, it's very different to what you've been told. I can guarantee that. Anyway, rambling about weed over. I'm trying to keep on alcohol. But yeah, basically, I ended up. We used to go to like beer festivals every year. There's a lot of beer festivals around me. We've had quite a few parties, great expensive alcohol in other places and things. I even organised for my brother's stag do. We organised a trip to Belgium, which I had to organise. That caused me a lot of stress, but it was good fun. It worked out kind of in the end. To organise a big group of people to go on basically a booze trip over there, and that was good fun. I don't know what time that would have been. So that would have been that was might be 23. So maybe it was about there I quit. Might have been about 23. Sort of around there, I ended up quitting alcohol because that's where I decided to. I don't know. For good, I was definitely trying to wean off it. And I wasn't being an alcoholic the entire time, but as I say, some of these stories sort of shocked me so much that I definitely thought, my God, what am I doing? The Going back to the doctor side of things, I ended up getting prescribed like 2 different pills to medicate and just basically try and fix my stomach. And that ended up working. That did work. I think generally cutting the alcohol back as well is the main thing that worked. But yeah, that was not nice. I didn't end up having that at prolonged periods, but particularly under heavy drinking, that's generally what happens. Your body just ends up just getting your stomach like lining tears up. It's not good. It's not easy. It's not easy. Going cold turkey is a big deal. I quit cigarettes at least a few years ago. I still vape, but it's very minimal compared to what the cigarettes were like. And the cigarettes itself was very, very hard for me to quit. The best thing I can say is just go cold turkey. I've considered this with losing weight, generally anything, even sports, stuff like that, exercise, things you want to do. There's what I like to call, and same with instruments, even learning an instrument is kind of like this. Instrument's a bit long-winded. You've got to kind of accept, actually, you're going to be shit for about 3 years until you're going to get good. That's kind of a reality you've got to face when you're learning an instrument. But that there's what I've considered a 3-day hump, 3 days. That if you can generally do something for like those 3 days, you can basically then carry it on and it can keep going, and vice versa. If you can take away something through those 3 days, then so basically if you can stop drinking for 3 days, it's going to be easier on the 4th and 5th and 6th. But those first 3 days are going to be agony. That's the reality of it. In terms of cravings and your usual routine, and a lot of that is routine. We are routinely set in the way of working life and the way the clock works in the world. It's not natural by any means. Particularly the working cycle is not a natural clock cycle for us, but that's just what they've created. So nothing you can really do about that, unfortunately, unless you're self-employed. But generally cold turkey, I think it's the main way I did it. And obviously having some cannabis on the side. I never always over the years always had weed. It was kind of like I'd have to pick up once every couple of weeks. And that small bit would have to last me those 2 weeks. I'd have to budget it. Same with like tobacco and things. I have to like budget that because I was a heavy cigarette smoker as well in that period of time. And the thing I found the problem with being a cigarette smoker is that I couldn't really drink without smoking. You could smoke on its own, that was kind of fine, but I couldn't really enjoy like a pint of cold beer without like a cigarette. There was something about that, and something, a habit that I'd grown up with, and there is something quite nice about it. Even now it's like, oh, that sounds good. It's been a long time. But yeah, no, it was mainly that in itself, just having to almost do both or do one or the other, and the drink was the first one I had to do, really. And I'm glad I did. It took me a long time. I drunk off and on. People still go to parties and expect you to have a drink or something. You do it, it's fine. I don't discourage it. But there did become a point where I still noticed when I did drink again, I would still have these waves of depression, and it was incredibly upsetting. That if I would say have like even if it was like when you sleep over or you go into a party or something, you actually end up going to sleep, I end up just having some really just end up being not in a really good place about it. And I just never liked that. I never liked that it made me feel like that. And it was the alcohol that made me feel like that. I can guarantee it. At least it did to me. I said it's very personal, this. I don't know. I don't know. It's very difficult because unfortunately, it's, as I say, it's very encouraged. It's sociable. I lost a lot of friends when I eventually quit alcohol. I lost basically pretty much all my friends because you cut out the need for you're Mr. Boring all of a sudden. I've even lost out on many dates because you're not going to come out and drink with us. What's the fuck with what's wrong with you? I'm like, well, I'd kind of say I want to drive or something, but I kind of knew I'd just end up making an ass of myself, I think is the reality of it. I kind of quickly turned into just wanting to have dinner with people, have some food with people, and just have some soft drinks and stuff. It was just a lifestyle change for me. And I noticed that people weren't happy about that for me. And as I said, I lost a lot of friends. Even my family, my brother and my dad were very weirded out that I'd stopped drinking alcohol. They're like, what's wrong with you? Come on. They always to a point they actually just tried to drag me out to a pub. I was like, well, we can go, but I'm not going to drink. I don't know. It was a bit weird. It caused a bit of a stir that I didn't expect, and I don't know why. It was just a personal choice that I'd made, basically, and I don't regret it at all. But I feel like even now, it's looked down upon. I had something very odd to me happen at one of my first jobs, where one of my good co-workers, we had a terrific crew worked at a cash and carry in a local town to me, and we had a terrific crew there for at least about 2 or 3 years of people, all very hardworking, I would just say, and all basically worked really well as a team. Everybody liked each other. We all had our own mannerisms. It was really quite a unique thing that I do actually have fond memories of. But one thing I never realized, at least one of them, and I could see it immediately after I learned, and I was learning a lot of psychology when I was there, because I found working in retail and places like that are a great place to practice psychology. Fantastic, even. Amazing places to learn psychology. But anyway, what I'd noticed is that someone had said on like a break that, Jazz is drunk again. Oh shit, I dropped a name. I'm really so sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have dropped a name. And bless him. And basically, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? He's not, I've never noticed that. And they're like, yeah, he's quite actually well known for being a bit of an alcoholic and coming to work drunk and things. You wouldn't know. I think this is what I mean. I worked with him for years. I never noticed. And it was quite an in-joke. And I was like, oh shit, I'd never really paid attention to it. And to be honest, after I picked up on the signs of alcoholism, glossy eyes is a big one. Glossy eyes, you can see I don't actually do a lot of eye contact. It's because I'm a bit more serious in my eye contact, and I don't like staring the camera down. I don't like staring anybody down because I know how uncomfortable it feels, and I think I'm quite intimidating to people, so I try and look away. But then that makes me a bit untrustworthy. But that's what you think. That's on you. I am aware. I use body language seriously if I need to. Otherwise, I'm quite relaxed about it. I don't try to intimidate my audience or anyone that's around me. I don't like that at all. I understand body language very well. Very, very well. It's something that took me a long time, as I say, to practice, but it is what it is. But anyway, glossy eyes, there's certain mannerisms, even like your cheeks can get very Rosecca or whatever it's called. You can get basically very blood vessels and your cheeks can go like blurry. It could be a distinctive cough. Obviously smell goes without saying, but mainly it's the glossy eyes and the face that can give it away. And I've had at least 2 co-workers. A second co-worker I worked with a few years ago, and God, he was awful, but whatever. I actually had 2 of them actually at that place, which is quite funny. One of them might still be there. I hope he's kind of all right, but it's quite worrying basically because he had the stomach ulcer problem. He had the coughing up blood and being sick and puking blood and all the rest of that, and he had stomach ulcers. And he basically played it off like, oh, he was a bit ill. I knew exactly what it was when he said that, and then as soon as he said that, I did already notice. I think he was a bit of an alcoholic anyway. But this is what I'm saying: you would never know. You would have never known if you were a customer, if you were an average person, you didn't understand what to look for and how it works, you would is a functioning alcoholic, I guess is the correct term, isn't it? You just someone that can go to work a bit tipsy and just get through the day, and that's just what they do. They have a top up in throughout the day or whatever they do, because alcohol really only lasts for about an hour or so, and then you kind of need a drink again. Otherwise, it's you kind of need to keep your blood, like alcohol level, up in your blood. And yeah, it's one of those things. I was like, poor bastard. He's obviously going through some stress and anxiety. It's the only reason people do this is because there's some sort of form of stress. We were doing a lot of hours at that place. And the thing is, I noticed it with another co-worker I was more working with as well. He was a bit more obvious with it, and he was also had the other side of actually being very aggressive. He was not a nice person to work with. He was very aggressive, very snappy, very aggressive, very arrogant. And it was very obvious to tell when he had been drinking heavily. And I think he would just go in the back room behind me and just take a swig out of a hip flask or something he had. It was always a bit dodgy. But again, he used to boast to a lot of his friends that were customers that how he had got like 16 cans of beer last night watching the football game, and he destroyed them all, and how like he would go on fishing trips with his mates, and they would be just basically they'd kill like 100 cans of like Stella or something as typical beer or whatever. And I was never impressed, but it's the kind of thing that the average customer go, oh mate, yeah, well done bro, oh yeah, that's cracking stuff, that is. How many fish do you catch, son? Oh yeah, all those beers, you'd get all the fucking fish in the world, son, wouldn't you? Oh yeah, fucking well done, lad, well done. Have a good time. How's the missus? How's she doing? Oh yeah. And fair play, have a little good chitter chatter, but it was never like, fucking hell bro, you got a problem. No one ever says anything like that. You know what I mean? It's not even encouraged. I mean, don't even get me started on the porn industry. Fuck me. I mean, I've got to be delicate if I do a video on that, but I kind of want to, because it's a taboo topic that no one talks about, and I don't personally watch it. And again, in a similar fashion, I quit that a long time ago. When I had my first girlfriend, I realized that fucked things up, and that was when I was 18 years old. And it's like, man, people are still addicted to that shit. I think even some of my friends are still addicted to that shit. I just like, fuck, man. That's a thing in its own right, but that's a similar problem that people don't talk about. And this is kind of why I wanted to do this video. It's a problem that people don't really talk about. I haven't really got a solution. Other than just my experience, unfortunately. I just ended up persevering. I just ended up looking to exercise, good eating, calorie counting is a big deal, and exercising and trying to lose weight. Something I could do with really doing now. I'm back on the exercise and protein shake. I only need to take my dirt bike out. That's the one that really gets me fit, but there we go. As for alcohol, I know a lot of people in situations where, as I say, they've got social groups, they've got friends that if they quit, then they would lose those friends. I'm sorry to say that might be a reality of it, because that's what happened to me. And I wouldn't really wish that on anyone. It was a shame. But that was it. If your friends can still include you while you want to quit alcohol, or have a break, then do it. I guess that's the big thing I'd recommend. People try and do, I think it was a January, like no drink January or something like that. Just try that. If if you have drinking like at least a few times, I mean, just try doing no drink January. I mean, as I said, I can't really be that honest, because I smoke weed. I don't smoke a lot at all. I really never have. I don't smoke big roll-ups or anything. I really smoke a small amount, and usually in the evenings. And the main thing that was for, I didn't realize I spoke about in a previous video, is my tinnitus. It's my ears. It's because I can't sleep at night. And I find the cannabis really helps me just go to sleep. That's the big thing. Also helps me think. And I think that's why they mainly don't want you smoking it, because it makes you think, and it might make you quit alcohol and everything else. And that's obviously a big tax income. And there's a whole chamber of rabbit holes that gets into a very big mountain that you might not want to follow into. But I should probably leave that there. I've kind of probably talked a bit. It's 33 minutes. I've not even mentioned half of the sort of stories I can even think about on top of my head. But I've definitely mentioned some big ones in there that I've never spoken about before. So if you still watch this video, I say thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't be any help. I'm trying to think of, this isn't really being very helpful to people. And I guess it might be, because people might be able to relate something or get something out of it. It's hard, as I say. It's very hard. It's as I say, the society is built around alcohol. You've got adverts at Christmas as alcohol. I remember, you know, a lot of my Christmases, particularly when I was 18 and upwards, I was always drunk at Christmas. It was almost like seen as in movies and things as tradition to be a drunkard on Christmas. You know, you must be as drunk as possible. God, no, don't. You know, just be sober, enjoy yourself, have a drink you enjoy. I mean, if it is an alcoholic drink, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just encouraged everywhere. Alcohol is, as I say, media. It's allowed to be advertised. The problem I have with alcohol is if you knew what was in a lot of it, you wouldn't drink it. If you've ever noticed, there's not an ingredients list on alcohol because there isn't. At least in the UK, there is no ingredients list on alcohol because by law they don't have to do it. They tried to make that a law a few years ago, and as you can imagine, they got rid of that very quickly, unfortunately. But it would have been, I thought that would have been good because you'd see a lot of it's fermented from just moss and crap and soil and God knows what they use. There's a big brewery near me in my town that's quite famous. There's quite a few breweries in my town that are quite famous. I mean, homebrew beer is a bit of a different topic, really, because that's more traditional. But it's just more like large scale production. You know, people still don't have to do that. So, and it's cheap. It's massively cheap. It's compared to a lot of stuff, it's still cheap, and it's one of the most widely available drugs you can go and just buy. And it is a drug. I think it's quite clear to express that alcohol is a drug. Nicotine in cigarettes is a drug, but I wouldn't argue it was really the problematic substance in cigarettes. It's probably everything else. I found that the biggest thing was cigarettes. I thought with like when I switched to vaping, you have the two, and I'm sure this is a lot of people. This will almost be another video as well. But the vaping, there's more to it. Even if you have strong nicotine, there's more to the cigarette than just the nicotine. Because as soon as you try and quit cigarettes and go to the vape, and it's got, say nicotine in it, you still want a cigarette afterwards. You can puff on a vape all day long, and you'd still potentially want a cigarette, particularly in those early stages. That 3-day hump, particularly, as I say, can be quite bad. Regardless of getting the cold sweats and stuff about a week later, which can be the withdrawal symptoms. Be fucking brave with that, okay? It's withdrawal symptoms are no fucking joke, and you know, if you need to take a few days off of work because you're sick, and you generally will be, just do it. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the withdrawal symptoms I had from like even when I've had downtime of cannabis has been quite bad. And it's usually about a week after having it, or so can be the withdrawal symptoms start happening. God damn, I say that, and that happens with alcohol, cigarettes, weed, anything. You know, it could probably even happen with instruments and stuff. Really, I thought I hadn't played my drums in years, but we'll gloss over that. Food, big one. Obviously, obviously don't go that long without food, but you know what I mean. If you've gone like a few cheat day is basically what I'm getting at. People will go so long and then they really crave a cheat day, and to the point they just do it anyway if they don't actually organize it. Yeah, I'm rambling too much here. If this video helped you, please leave a like. I say I ramble quite a bit, but I just felt like it's something I want to talk about this morning because I'm meaning to do it for a bit, but it's not orchestrated. It's just going off of memories and embarrassing moments and things that I found helpful. I'd say drinking water before bed when I was an alcoholic was a big deal. Drinking water in general, having an appetite for water was a big deal that helped me. I used to have squeezy bottles, drink sports bottles. Straws are another great thing because a lot of people have a hard time just drinking water. So if you can get a sports bottle and squeezer or a straw, you can consume a lot more water a lot quicker. The big thing with water as well is that people I don't like the taste of tap water. At least over here, I think it doesn't taste too bad, but it's each to their own. Everyone's tap water, particularly around here, is different. But the main thing is water tastes different depending on the temperature. Massively. So the big one is to basically have cold water. If you need to put water in the fridge and keep a rotation of sports bottles or something, just do that. Because that's what I do. And I can't really drink tap water unless it's cold. But even then, it's usually not cold enough. So yeah, cool. I'll leave it on there. Say thank you very much for watching. I shall see you in the next video. Peace.